Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I complete 10 years here in Mexico. So I thought I should share my experience and my journey with all of you here in YouTube. So let me begin. I came here on August 22nd, 2012 with my two kids because my husband got a project in Mexico City and he was already here. He came like 6 months before us because obviously we couldn't just leave everything back in India and move. So first he came, and during those 6 months I slowly started, we had our house there, so I had to dispose of things. I was working, so I had to resign my job, give a notice period. All that happened, and of course, we had our own, doubts whether we should go to Mexico City or not. But when you have only two choices, that either you go with your husband or bring up your kids all by yourself, I think the decision is easy. You want your kids to be with, dad, and you want to be with your husband. So obviously, my decision was very clear that I would be moving to Mexico City with him. So after 6 months, I came to Mexico City with my two kids. I came through Amsterdam because at that time I didn't have a US visa. So before that I had to go to get my Mexican visa from Delhi embassy. So first time me and kids along with my father, we went for the Mexican visa in Delhi embassy. And I think, like many of you, even I had some problems. Some documents were missing, so obviously my visa didn't go through the first time. So second time, my husband had to come like for a few days with all the documents, and then we went together. And then yes, I got my Mexican visa. Then he went back, and then I settled back things in Bangalore because we were living there. And then I traveled with my two kids via Amsterdam to Mexico City. So my first impression when I reached Mexico City, to be frank with you, was, it's so similar to Bangalore. It was a 40-hour journey. It was definitely a long journey. I was super tired. But when I landed and when we came out, my first impression was that this looks like Mexico City. Because before that, we had been to Budapest. We were there for 2 years. And when I landed in Budapest, of course, it's a European country. It was totally different. It had a different feeling. But Mexico looked so much like India, especially Mexico City. I told my husband this looks like Bangalore because the weather was the same. It was not very hot, not very cold. And the architecture, the buildings, the malls, they all reminded me of Bangalore. And then in Mexico City, we were living in a place called Polanco. It's a very busy place. And we were quite close to the highway, the main road, because my husband was working for a client company there. And since we were very close to the main road or the highway, all the time we could hear the honking because it was a busy road. And in Mexico City, usually there is a lot of traffic and traffic jam because of the population, because of the narrow roads. So we used to hear a lot of honking too. So I thought, yes, this definitely looks like Bangalore. Only problem that I faced, or I should say the initial shock that I had when we were in Mexico City was the tremors, the earthquakes. Yes, in Mexico City, there is a frequent fear of, getting these earthquakes. Every second month, there is a tremor, and then the whole building, we were in the 10th floor, so the building used to move a little. Of course, they were all earthquake resistant, but yes, you feel the movement, and there is this earthquake alarm which goes off somewhere in the middle of the night. So you just wake up with that alarm. So those things were a little shocking for us because we had never experienced that in India. We lived in Mexico City for 2 years, and I would say Mexico City is definitely a place where you have so many things to explore. Because in Mexico City there are many foreigners, and even the Mexicans who live there are coming from different states. So the culture is different, there are different varieties of food, and of course so many places to explore. If not nothing, you have so many different styles of malls which you could like go every weekend and go visit that place. And I used to love going to these malls or some place on the weekend because I was tired of staying at home from Monday to Friday because I wasn't working at that time. And then in 2013, my parents visited us in Mexico City. And they also had their share of problems when they traveled from India to Mexico City, the same like me. They had some issues with the Mexican visa. But yes, they traveled and they were of course tired with the long journey. But when they came to Mexico City, they also felt the same. They felt that the people are so warm and so kind-hearted. So they really liked the place. And I would say they for first few months they didn't really taste Mexican food, because at home of course we used to make Indian food, and when we go out on the weekends they used to always look for Chinese or Japanese food, because that had some rice and chicken in our style, similar to our style. So they never tasted Mexican food. But they were there with us for almost 4 months, and on the fourth month is when they started tasting little bit of Mexican food. And my parents mostly liked tamales, because I think that was little similar to our South Indian breakfast called idli. So they really liked that. And then after 2 years, my husband got an opportunity in Queretaro, which is another state in Mexico, like a 3 hours drive from Mexico City. And we decided to take that opportunity because, as I told you, we were a little scared about the tremor, the earthquake that frequently happened in Mexico City. So we thought, let's take the opportunity, and we decided to move to Querétaro. And Querétaro was completely different from Mexico City. And I'm talking about a place which was like 8 years back. Querétaro was, had a very less population. The roads were cleaner. I mean, even now it's clean, but 8 years back it was a different story. So the place totally looked like a US state. It was beautiful, less population, wider roads, beautiful lanes, and the houses were also very big. For the rent that we used to pay in Mexico City, we got a bigger house here in Querétaro. So definitely this was a completely different place for us. But only problem in Querétaro was that there were no many places to explore. But luckily we found a good group of friends here in Querétaro, and we had like a blast. Every weekend we used to have get-togethers, and we had a really good time. Just like they say, every place has its plus and minus, Querétaro also had its minus. The public transport, especially during that time, was really bad. They didn't have, the public taxis, or they didn't have public buses that frequently as they were in Mexico City. In Mexico City during that time, there were yellow taxis where, if you just show your hand, it stops, or even the bus. In fact, that was one of the reasons for the traffic in Mexico City, because the mini buses, they just stop if you show hand, and they stop anywhere in between, just like in India. So and that's why it was easy to commute anywhere, and I never needed a car in Mexico City. But in Querétaro, after we moved, we decided that we need to buy a car, because as I said, the public transport was not that good. And so we first bought a car in Querétaro, and even after buying one car, it was getting really difficult, because once my husband goes to his office, I had to go pick my kids, and they had these after school activities. So I also needed a car, and that's when I started driving here in Querétaro, because there was no other choice. My husband's office was a little far, so he could not always come back and pick the kids for us. So I had to start driving, and that is one big achievement that I did here after coming to Mexico. I knew driving back in India, but I never took out the car because I was really scared. And I think like most of us do, it's easy to take a two-wheeler in India than the car. So I used to always ride a two-wheeler, but never a car. But after coming to Querétaro, I started driving too. And I started picking kids, after school activities, so life was getting a little busy, and I also decided to start my job, because my kids didn't need that much attention from me with the homework. By then my kids had picked up the language, so they could do their homework by themselves. So that's when I decided to look for a job, and I realized that it's not easy to find a job here in Mexico, especially with the language barrier. And also it's not easy. I feel here in Mexico it's more easy to find a job in the IT field, but not in management or in the HR field that I was in. So I decided to take up a teaching job. I got a job in an institute, in a private institute, where I used to teach English to adults. So life was really busy with my job, with kids, after school activities. And after 3 years in Mexico, we decided to go on vacation to India. And that was another change for us. When we went to India on vacation after 3 years is when we realized how different both the countries were, especially with the honking of the cars. The first day when I went on a walk with my father, I realized that in India we keep honking for no reason. If we see a crossroad, we honk. I mean, I also do that because I think that's the way we drive in India, because whenever we have a crossroad or when we take a turn, we just honk, telling people that I'm coming, that way. And we are so used to that. And that's when I realized that it's so unnecessary and it's such a big noise pollution, because that really gave me a headache on my first day of vacation when I went to India. And of course, after 3 years, when I went back to India, I missed the food so much, especially because we didn't have good restaurants here in Queretaro. So I really enjoyed, Indian food back in the restaurants, the street food. So I really enjoyed my first vacation when I went back after 3 years. And in my job, since I was teaching English, my main, I had to always speak in English with my students. But my students who were in the basic level of learning English used to talk to me in Spanish, and that's how I improved my Spanish skills, especially my listening skills. I was not really good at talking then. Even now, I'm not that great. But that's because I used to not talk to them in Spanish. I used to speak to them in English. But yes, I used to hear a lot of Spanish words and sentences, and that's how I improved my Spanish. And I also went to a couple of classes, but I realized that when you go to classes, you feel you are learning and you know everything, but you cannot really improve a language unless you start talking. And that's exactly my problem, because I was not talking. Even now, I don't talk much in Spanish. Even if I have Mexican friends, I usually talk to them in English because they know English pretty well, and I speak to them in English, and I don't improve my Spanish that way. And after working there for around 4.5 years, I decided to quit that job, and I thought I will look for a better perspective. And I quit, and I took a break of like couple of months, thinking that after a couple of months break, I will start looking for a job. And that's when COVID hit. So I decided, let me take a break, because that was not the right time, because everybody was getting fired during that time. So it was not the right time for me to look for a job. And my kids and my husband was working from home, so I also stayed back at home. And after 1 year, that is in 2021, is when I started my YouTube journey. And I have already talked about my YouTube journey in my previous videos, so I'm not boring you with the same stuff again. And for the past 5 months, I've started working again, and that's the one more reason that my videos are not that frequent now. I'm running out of ideas because I'm busy with my work, but I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to post videos on your request, especially because I know many of you who are moving to Mexico. I get many questions from you people asking about the country, and I'm really happy to help you all with the answers, because I know it's difficult to move to a country without knowing anything about it. So that was my small story about 10 years here in Mexico. I missed a lot of things in between, but that is a gist of my 10 years here in Mexico. And during these 10 years, we got the opportunity to explore many places like Acapulco, Cancun, Puebla, then Monterrey, Ixtapa, and many more places. And there are many more places which I want to explore, like for example Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Chihuahua, Veracruz. These are few places that are on my list, and I really want to go there. So maybe very soon I will go to these places to explore, and I will definitely share those videos with you too. So please keep showering your love and support as usual, and don't forget to share, like and subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to end this video